right. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to a Thursday session with the Investment Dominator. And with today's session, we're going to go ahead and take a look at all of the advanced questions that you guys have from our previous Monday session. And then we'll go ahead and dive into some updates as well as some more topics concerning the Investment Dominator. Now, my name is Dominic, and I'm going to go ahead and actually open up our survey right now. Now, the survey is going to primarily consist of two questions. First one is if you are new to using the Investment Dominator, and the second one is, what you would like to see discussed on the call. So let's go ahead and launch that now. You'll see that pop up in your browser, or within the Ring Central, I should say. And all right, without further ado, let's go ahead and start this up. So if this is your first time joining one of these advanced sessions or just an Investment Dominator Q&A session in general, you'll find that as soon as you open up the Ring Central app, it'll go ahead and ask you to join with your computer audio. There's a couple ways to do that, but if you wanted to go ahead and test any specific, let's say a speaker that you want to go ahead and work through with or a headset, you'll need to go ahead and click on test speakers to be able to choose the right one for you. Now, also, just kind of one thing that I would like to clear up just about asking questions. So for any questions where we're really like running out of time and we want to go ahead and still process those, it's actually going to be best if you submit that through the chat function as compared to the Q&A option. But during this call, when we're going through it, we'll try to break down all those Q&As so that we can leave any remaining questions in that chat field. But if you want to go ahead and communicate with us during the stream, again, the chat option, which you'll see in that toolbar, and you don't really have to worry about raising your hand. All right, and also one tidbit that I'll bring up about this is all these calls will be recorded and posted onto our user guide. So if at any time you want to go back to it and just kind of review how we went over your question, you'll be able to do so, and we can show you how to do that. But without further ado, go ahead and use the chat feature, and just tell me if you're hearing my audio well, not too loud or not too low. Would really appreciate that. So we'll go ahead and open up our LPG deal flow here, and we just want to keep in mind of a couple things. For example, first you're going to go ahead and start with that target market. This is how you'll get started using the Investment Dominator, and then you'll be able to really focus in and get a list of those landowners, a filtered list hopefully, which you'll have imported into your Investment Dominator, so that way you can go ahead and mail your letters and talk to sellers. From that point, you would go ahead and be able to do some preliminary research so that you can go ahead and mail your offers and maybe even do some option agreements. Now, with that being said, next you'll lead into the open escrow where you'll further do some more research and be able to go ahead and market your property with or without owner financing. And really the end goal that we're all aiming for is being able to really have these properties listed on our selling site and close and get paid, be able to sell those properties. All right. Now, just more on really how the Investment Dominator will be operating. So, for example, you'll see on the left-hand side here, all this information is actually going to be coming from you and being put into the Investment Dominator. So that's information such as your company information, county data, offer requests, whether that be through by phone or by website. We have property details and tasks. And at the bottom, you'll go ahead and see prospects, leads, buyers, transaction information, and lead tracking information. So that's a lot, but really, when you're putting that into the Investment Dominator, what you're able to do as an output, as you see on the right-hand side, is be able to generate those letters, offers. You'll have your websites, which we go over on our Monday call, but it's the buying and the selling website. Calculators and tools, especially when you start to work on those offers. And we have analytics where you can get some reports about how your land deals are doing. And last but not least, team management, which is really the next step forward after you go ahead and get comfortable with the Investment Dominator. So you'll see here at the end of these streams, there is a Investment Dominator survey that pops up. Just keep in mind, and if you have some time, go ahead and submit this. It's primarily going to ask you for your name as well as your account email address and just some questions about how familiar you are with the Investment Dominator. Would really appreciate that, and it really goes to helping on what improvements we're going to do next for the Investment Dominator. All right. So let's go ahead and jump right in. And looks like we have some questions coming up, which is good. But first, let me go ahead and look at the polling. I'm going to go ahead and end the polling now. So it looks like we're about split. We have some new users that are coming to the Investment Dominator, as well as some advanced users. And it looks like today, primarily, everybody wants to go ahead and focus on some recent updates. So there are a lot of recent updates, so we can go ahead over that after we process some questions. So let's see. All right, now just seeing some questions in the chat. Just keep in mind that really for these Investment Dominator sessions, we primarily want to stay away from questions that have to do with specifics on your business, especially like which kind of counties to look at, or what numbers to be able to kind of generate. And this is something that we really point towards coaching. And we do have that link. I do think I have it somewhere, maybe in my bookmarks, but we recommend that type of question for coaching. So just keep that in mind. Primarily for these sessions, we want to go ahead and ask general questions that would help everybody out on this, whether you are a beginner or an advanced user. But let's go ahead and see if there's some more questions. Okay, so we have a question from Raj, and Raj wants to go ahead and pull a county list from Investment Dominator, and it looks like save it onto the portal. So that sounds like it has to go more into lines with our outside data service integration. So Raj, just correct me if that's what you're talking about, but I can go ahead and just show you how to go ahead and generate a criteria. So we could go here to help, and let's go to the user guide. I always like to really reference the user guide whenever I'm trying to tackle some issue that I'm working with on the Investment Dominator, because it really could provide some use when you're working through with it. But for example, we can go ahead here and we can type in, let's say, outside data service. And we could get some articles here. So for example, this one is called New Outside Data Service Integration Feature. Now, if you click on that article, it'll go ahead and open up some more information about specifically this integration. And we'll see here, we have number one, how to go ahead and enable it for those users who are not aware of this, and also how to generate a criteria. So this is the one that we want to go ahead and have open while we're working through with this example. But we'll see here that primarily you'll just go to import on your land deals and then choose the option to get data from our outside data service. Then you'll go ahead and select the new criteria and then be able to go ahead and generate that criteria. So let's go ahead and just take a look at this live at how it will look at our system. So we'll go to land and dashboard, or actually we could go to land and import. And we'll be brought right to the screen here. Let's go ahead and click onto get data. And when we do that, you'll see two options. So number one, we can go ahead and load a previously saved criteria. And I do believe I did see that as a question as well too, which we could go over. And this option here to generate a new land list. So we'll click on that option. And just remember that in order for this screen to pop up in your Investment Dominator, you'll need to have the integration activated and paid for. So just keep that in mind, but let's choose a state here. So we'll pick one at random. Let's go with Florida. And let's go ahead and work with, let's say, Clay County. So essentially, right when you start, you're going to see that this market value pops up, and the market value starts at a range from 5,000 to about 200,000. So just keep in mind, depending on what you're working with, you can change the slider to really fine tune your search. And then once you're done with that, you'll go ahead and click down here. Now just keep in mind of this note as well, which talks about an estimated record count. So we're working in estimations. Nothing's really exact when we're working with this. So for example, we'll click onto this. We'll click get that estimated record count. And what we're going to see here is that, number one, there's an estimated of 1,309 records, as well as, let's see here, 1204, which is in our account. So just keep in mind of this, it'll tell you, you have 1204 record credits remaining for this billing period. And this is where you will go ahead and enter the number that you want to import into your system. So for example, you could do 100, you could do 1,000, however many, and that'll go ahead and get deducted from that remaining credit when you go ahead and import it. So also something that you would want to go ahead and take a look at before you finish your import is the advanced filters option. So when you click on advanced filters, you'll get even more filters just to be able to really fine tune this criteria. So you'll see, for example, property size range, and you can go ahead and fluctuate that, or include owners with multiple properties. Now, I know a lot of students actually don't like to go ahead and do that, so you can just say no. And this will just import, one record per owner, as you'll see. And also another option here, exclude in-state owners. By default, that's set to yes, and exclude owners on the do not mail list. So if you previously heard a response from a prospect and, they said, don't mail here again, you'll put them on that do not mail status, and that'll trigger by going ahead and clicking yes if you're continuing to work with the same county. Now, also we have ownership type. So if you want to go ahead and prioritize owners that are just individuals, you can actually click onto this option here, as well as companies, if you want to just focus on that. Or you could do both, which is set by default. And just the last thing that we'll go ahead and mention about this is the filter by improvement value, which you'll see is set to no. But if you select yes, you can go ahead and choose a value from which, the listing started, to which it was reported that there were improvements done. Maybe they added a, excuse me, a new water system, or a new, a well, something like that. Any of those improvements that get tracked within that county data, we'll go ahead and track that there. As well as last thing is a sale date. So you could do last sale date and just set that range. So really, once you're done, then you can go ahead and just make sure that you refresh the count again. And if everything is good, so, because we adjusted our criteria, then we went from 1,309 records, I believe it was, to now 514. So just keep that in mind. And I'll just go ahead and import, let's say 5 records. And then one thing also you want to keep in mind when you're working with this, now you have two options. So if you want to go ahead and prevent duplicates from happening into your system, which is a common question that does come up. And I know this kind of goes past Raj's question, but I do want to mention it. We created this article here. If you go ahead and type in the keyword duplicate into the system, there's this article, how to prevent importing duplicate records from our outside data service. So basically, just to give you a short or a quick recap, you're basically going to want to save a criteria and then load from that criteria. And when you're loading from that criteria, it's going to present you with the option here, which you'll see says exclude previously imported records. Now, when you're, coming back to this county that we're in, you'll need to go ahead and select this after you load your criteria in order to really make sure you're getting the correct amount of records. So for example, we'll go ahead and do that there. So they're an estimated 514. Let's go ahead and import 5. we have two options. So you can either write a written saved criteria here. So for example, let's say 331, or maybe something like this, 331, 2020 poll. Just something that would go ahead and, you'll be able to remember about later. And then we can go ahead and import the records. All right, now once the records are imported within your system, you can always go to so for example, click the back button and let's go to import. And if we scroll down, we'll see all of our past imports here. This can be just the CSV file as well as the data tree option. So you could click on to details if you need to review any information. So for example, if there's any differences in the numbers here, and as well as you can click this number to go to the exact records that you are working with. So for example, we'll go here to our activity log, and then if we click on this again, it'll open up our records, our 5 records that we've imported. All right, so hopefully that does help you in that sense. And just to kind of show you as well that load criteria option. So if we go back to our outside data service here, so we can go ahead and load a criteria. This is the saved one that we just did. And you can either click onto this or be able to click onto an auto-saved criteria of when this poll was made. But for example, we could click onto this, we could go load criteria, and you just want to keep in mind that you don't want to touch any of these filters that you're working through with, because this will put you at risk to go ahead and have duplicates. But all you'll need to do is click onto this exclude previously imported records. You'll say yes, that option will go away, and then now you could get your estimated record count. And something also that you would want to just keep in mind, so we're going to get the same amount of records that we had from the last time we pulled. It's not going to subtract the 5 records that we previously took. So for example, if you're importing thousands of records within a county, and you'll see that number there still says 1,000, you'll just want to keep in mind that once you've imported those 1,000 already, then you've exhausted that criteria. But all right, so hopefully that does help you just kind of when using the Investment Dominator. Again, this article here, how to prevent those duplicates, will definitely be of some help to people. All right, let's see if we have any more questions coming up. Okay, so we have a question here from Jason. And it looks like he wants to go ahead and get some more information on how to remail to the same county. And let's go ahead and just first, browse through our user guide to find some information, and then we can go ahead and definitely take a look at that as well. So for example, one thing that I would recommend is actually coming up here, and you can use the keyword remail. And this article will go ahead and show up first. And what I can go ahead and say, Jason, is that there is a little bit of a process to have in mind before you are kind of approaching this. And along with this article here, I'm going to reference you to another one as well. This one's going to be called, you could type in the keyword offer campaign, and you're going to see a 3-part series of articles here just about the offer campaign. Now, if we go over here to, I believe it was the 3rd one, and we scroll down, let's see, okay. So there's a diagram here, and just keep in mind, if you type in that keyword, you'll be able to see all the information that pertains to really the offer campaign. Definitely recommend reading through all of this at least once. So you'll see here, we have our default deal flow setup. And these are stages up at top that we primarily use the Investment Dominator with. So we have the prospect stage, the offer request, the offers made, the buying, selling, and last but not least, sold. So with that stage, we have some statuses here. So you'll see these statuses in yellow, as well as kind of like what they lead to, as well as what they generate. So for example, we have prospects, and you start off with prospects, and after you go ahead and send that prospect neutral letter, you'll see the prospect neutral letter, it gets moved over to mailed letter 1, right? And then the process would continue pending preliminary research, and then on and on and on. But what we want to focus on now is remailing to the same county again. So this is going to probably have these prospect records in another status, maybe like sold, for instance. But essentially, what you would do is you need to go ahead and oops, you need to go ahead and change these to another status. Now, by default within the Investment Dominator, what you're going to go ahead and notice is that there are no normal statuses that you would be able to turn to. So basically, what you're going to see in orange here is the process as if you were remailing to another county, and you need to go ahead and generate more letters. Excuse me. So, for example, your custom letter 2, as you'll see here. Now, custom letter 2 is not by default within the Investment Dominator. So you would need to create that custom prospect neutral letter, which is being sent again to that county. And that's where we dive more into this article here. But basically, you would create a custom status, and the custom status would be called mailed letter 2. Now, normally the process is when these records are under prospect, they'll go again and get sent to mailed letter 1 and then pending preliminary research. But since you're remailing, they're actually going to be sent to mailed letter 2. This is how you really identify, you know, which records are in which process. So for example, if you need to even send another prospect neutral letter, so for example, this custom letter 3, if you need to go ahead and send that, then those records will be under that mailed letter 2 status. You'll go ahead and change that to mailed letter 3 now. Now, from that point, it'll still go to pending preliminary research, but you're going to go ahead and see here that you'll see second offer sent, third offer sent. So this is really when you're breaking down into those extra tidbits. But really, once you understand that and what's going on, this article will go ahead and make more sense to you, just about how to remail to the same county. But essentially, what you're going to be doing is taking those records that you're working with, gathering that list again, coming over here to the land and import option, and you'll primarily be using this option here. So update existing records. Now, from the point that you submitted your question, it seemed like these records were already in your Investment Dominator. And if that's the case, the one thing that you want to go ahead and do is make sure that when you're importing, you're not creating new records, because that'll create duplicates. You'll want to actually choose the option here to update existing records, so that any records within your Investment Dominator, they'll basically be matched by that name as well as the address. And if there's a match, then it'll make sure that that information doesn't change. But what's going to be happening is that the status will go ahead and change. And now, because you'll be using custom documents, which this is really explained later, when you go ahead and use the custom documents, you're going to notice that you can choose the next status that you want these records to go to. So for example, let's show you that here. So we're back in our Investment Dominator. We'll go to custom documents. And let's say I have one here, which is I'll do this one, the custom document with logo. Essentially, you're just come down here, and now instead of sending these records to the mailed letter 1 status, you would basically be sending these records to the mailed letter 2 status. And that'll go ahead and, so you can still tag your records, to identify them, but primarily, like the process that they're in is mailed letter 2, which you'll go ahead and track there. All right, now I tried to simplify that as much as I could, but really there's a whole lot that is involved, and definitely recommend you go ahead and check out this article just on the fact of creating that status, as well as creating the custom document. But what I can say is that we do provide you with everything that you'll need to create this custom document here. And if you have any more questions, definitely don't be afraid to reach out. Okay, so let's see. Let's see if we have another question here. Um, okay, so we have a question here from Terrence, and Terrence wants to know if he can go ahead and use, it looks like it's called First American Title Company, to be able to pull records um, and import that into the Investment Dominator. So that's a great question, Terrence. As far as experience with First American Title, I do not have any, but what I can go ahead and inform you to is actually something that you would need to do anyway. So you mentioned a good point about if you would need to import this with the CSV list, and yeah, you would totally need to go ahead and do that to be able to import these records into the Investment Dominator. And you'll see here, I entered in a keyword import within my user guide. And if I scroll down, I'll see this how to import your list for land investing. Now, Terrence, this is primarily what you'll want to use when you are going ahead and importing this list. So basically, you'll have two Excel lists side by side. The first one will be the one that you're getting from First American Title, and the second one will be the formatting that is needed to import into the Investment Dominator. So I don't think there's a link here that we could click on, but I'll go over where to find a sample list right after this. So basically, you just want to keep in mind of these things, and if you go down our required fields, no matter the information that you have within that first list that's coming from First American Title, you'll need to reformat that in order to import it into the Investment Dominator. So you'll need columns such as first name, last name, as well as, let's see, company. And if you scroll down all the way to the bottom, actually, we list that out. So these are the 11 required fields to be able to import a CSV list, and some optional fields. So, specifically when we get to these optional fields, they might be called something else on your original list that you purchased, but just make sure to put that in the appropriate column here. All the columns are case sensitive, so you'll need to be sure that everything is accurate. But if we go here, I believe, to our Investment Dominator, and we go to import, again, we're under land import. Then if you click onto this sample list that you'll see here, which we can open up, this is what I mean by having both the Excel sheets side by side. You would basically be taking in one information and then putting it into this correct one. So these are all the columns that you'll need to go ahead and have. And just a little tidbit about this as well. For any record that's listed as an individual person, you'll just have a first name and a last name for, and you'll leave this company column blank. But if you have anything that's a company record, so for example, a company, a trust, um, I forget the other options. I believe like church was an option as well. Then you can go ahead and list that under company. So this won't need a first name or a last name, just filled out company. And again, any of that side information you can go ahead and import as well too. But hopefully that does help answer your question. I'll go ahead and close these out. All right. So let's see here. See if we have any more questions. Okay, so it looks like we have a question from Leon here. Okay, so this is more of a question that definitely would be suited for a ticket, but I can go ahead and show you just kind of how to go ahead and troubleshoot this. So Leon's having some issues with his domain, and it looks like it primarily has to do around with forwarding. Now he's not using GoDaddy, he's using another service called Bluehost, but really when you're working with this part of your domain process, it will be very similar, to different providers. So if I come over here, I'm actually already in my kind of forward screen that I'm working with, but number one thing that you want to go ahead and make sure is that your CNAME record is pointing to the Investment Dominator. So this is primarily within your DNS management section of your domain. You'll go to CNAME and you'll just pencil this, and you want to make sure that you have everything set up correctly on this end. So again, host is www, points to is investmentdominator.com, custom TTL, TTL also stands for time to load, and 600 seconds. Now, in the case where you're talking about your forwarding, you would want to come down here and you'll see forwarding, at some part of Bluehost website. You just want to make sure that you're clicking on the HTTP option here, as well as entering the www dot lots of cat, or for example, this is my domain, but it would basically be www.yourdomain.com. And this is probably where you're having some issues with, so definitely would check this, but you just want to keep in mind of a couple things. So we'll head back into the Investment Dominator. So if we go over here to customize, and let's say, I'm not sure which site you're talking about, but let's say you're working with the selling site. And if we come over here, we'll see that there's a couple options here that we can work through with. So basically, and just keep in mind that the process is exactly the same, for the buying site and the selling site. My example here, I just have the selling site, but you want to make sure that this says HTTPS followed by your domain, and you want to make sure that you went through the whole process to go ahead and change your domain. If you're not seeing the S option here, then that means that, you might want to go ahead and reset your domain and then do the process again. But really, you'll go ahead and see here, if I go to website selling, by default, the www is not going to come up, but you just want to keep in mind that you're really going to have to include this www part when you're going ahead and searching for your domain. This will just, it'll be the most efficient way to go ahead and do that. And as you'll see here, if I go back to my dashboard, let's say I just generate a prospect neutral letter, just to be able to go ahead and show you how the websites look when they're being sent to prospects. You'll see here down at the bottom that primarily it will be like, it will include the www. It's not just going to say your whole, just your domain name here. And this is so that whatever browser is accessing your website, it'll, register properly. For example, I know on Google Chrome sometimes you can actually just type in the domain name without the www and it'll just forward because it's saved already within your system. But for example, if you go ahead and try to do that on Safari, you're going to notice that you're having trouble connecting to your site. So just, either make it a reminder to always just include the www, or if you're testing out your website, you can test that as well. And just kind of the last point I'll make about that is that it might also depend on the forwarding settings that Bluehost has. So not sure if it's like something that's worth submitting a support ticket to them about that, but it might just be a kind of a limitation there on that end. But you really should be able to just, set these forwarding settings and have this work correctly. But hopefully that does help you. All right. Let's see if there was any more questions. I thought there was a question that came up. Oh yeah, here we go. So let's see. So we have a question here from Leslie. And Leslie asked, is there a way to add a second signature, a partner, to the letters that are sent out? That is a good question. So by default, there isn't an option. unless if you would come over here to your investment dominator and you would go to profile, you would go to my profile, and let's say it would probably involve some sort of like Photoshop to be able to kind of merge two signatures in one. But given the limitation of the space that you have for your signature, that could kind of pose a problem. So what I would recommend that you do is if you really set on kind of doing that or just adding that second signature, you can go ahead here. Let's go to customize. Or actually, let's reference the user guide first. So we'll come to the user guide. We're going to see, let's say if you're working with your custom neutral letter. This first article here will go ahead and help you just be able to, understand custom documents and create that custom neutral letter. And definitely recommend that one. Also this logo one here too, because this might be something that you'll look into. But essentially, if we come back to the Investment Dominator, we're going to go ahead and go to customize, custom documents. And then we're going to go to, let's see, I have a logo here with the neutral letter. And basically, we're going to scroll down and we're going to want to see the option that we can go ahead and work through with. Let's see here. So for example, we have a merge field here called My Signature. And really, this is where you will go ahead and import the signature that you had in that profile section. But if you wanted to add another signature, you could actually do this. So for example, if we go to document preview, we'll just see the signature pops up there. So instead, it'll kind of, you'll need to format it and be able to see exactly if it's how you would want it to come out. But essentially, you will click onto this image icon here within the document content, and you would basically just upload your second image or your second signature. Now, again, you'll have to test the formatting and kind of work through with this, but you might even consider not using the merge field option just so that you can properly, for example, we're uploading it now. I'll send it to the server, see my signature there. And for example, if it's looking too big, we can go ahead and just let's put it at 150, something like that. We could say okay, and it'll come up like that. But if we go to document preview to be able to see it, this is why, again, you might want to go ahead and not use the merge field for your signature because that might come out too big, but you'll see here it comes out nice and good there. So basically, you would be creating the spot as to which you're adding these signatures. And I could do this again. You'll see I'll do upload, choose my signature one more time, go to open, and then I'll send it to the server. Again, I believe my width I had set to 150. I'll click on OK, and you'll see two signatures there side by side, and that'll really be how you'll go ahead and work through with that. And you'll just test and see, if you like it, and if you want to, change the sizing or whatever else. So hopefully that does help you with that. All right, I did see some more questions coming through. Let me go ahead and just review this real quick. All right. Okay, let's first go over, I'm going to go over these two questions, and then I want to talk about updates within the Investment Dominator that we have. So we have here a question more along the lines from Leon, and he wants to go ahead and focus on the REI Printmail integration. Now, so it looks like he had some trouble when he went ahead and sent a mailing with REI Printmail. And he went ahead and said that, he entered in his information, but he needs to go ahead and verify that he sent his order. So it's a great question, Leon. We can go ahead and help you with that. Basically, you'll come back here to the Investment Dominator, and anytime you're making kind of like these big actions, like importing lists from a data tree, as well as just sending an REI Printmail campaign out, you can go to your team, and you can go dashboard if you want. You can go to activity log. What you're going to see in your activity log is a couple things. The first is, all the actions that you're making in the Investment Dominator. So for example, the action where I imported 5 records from data tree, you'll see that there within my system. And you'll also see your REI Printmail Orders. It'll go ahead and inform you the exact order, as well as provide you with the detail. Now, when you click on detail, that order will provide you with the REI Printmail order ID. Now, the REI Printmail integration is something that's different as compared to our outside data service integration. And, the one thing with that is the outside data integration, all support is sent to us to handle. But with the REI Printmail integration, as soon as you get that order ID number from that point, then, all your information as well as the payment is sent to REI Printmail. So, you'll need to be able to just have that order ID information and just really ping their support about more information about the payment process. But what kind of, I can definitely say that if the order went through, then that'll show up on your activity log. But if not, you may need to process that again. But always reaching out to REI will definitely handle any situations with that. All right, hopefully that helps you. And one question here from Raj, and Raj wants to go ahead and know, looks like he has a question about getting alerts within the Investment Dominator. So it looks like some records that have incomplete data, or if you're getting any type of messages after you go ahead and import from, let's say, either from data tree or you import from your normal CSV list, this will be something that you can go ahead and review. And normally when this system goes ahead and gives you a prompt, it's similar to this issue here with merging records that comes up on your Investment Dominator if there is a duplicate information. So I like to type in just the keyword why into the Investment Dominator, and we have some of these, why does this happen, articles which pop up. This article, for instance, why am I seeing a prompt to merge? This is going to be similar to what you're seeing, and basically it's going ahead and asking you to fill in some further information. So specifically with your case, Raj, and having some records that have incomplete data, since and if we're talking about the data tree integration, when you're working with the data tree, or sorry, the outside data service integration, you just want to go ahead and keep in mind that all that information is coming directly from the county. So if there's any, like missing information or anything that doesn't pass the requirements to be imported into ID, being Investment Dominator, then that'll go ahead and be a rejected record. But for records, well, you'll go ahead and see that. You'll just want to either click on yes and just review the option to go ahead and check your records. Now, what I can tell you is that if you go ahead and, you're getting that issue and you want to go ahead and try to handle it, you'll need to go ahead and process a campaign. And at that point, when you go ahead and generate any letters, you'll get a prompt in your system, which will tell you to address the records before you, potentially would waste money sending either two duplicate records that you have doubles of in your system. So you'll just need to review that, and it'll basically, just tell you here. So if the address matches, as well as the city and the state, you'll need to go ahead and just merge this information. Primarily what's going to happen is that on the left-hand side, you'll see the first record that you're working with, and on the right-hand side, you'll see basically the record that has the duplicate information. Now, you'll go ahead and see these little really triangles here where you can go ahead and add specific information. So If there's one record that you're working with, and let's say their owner address is more updated compared to that record B here, then you might want to just take records A, this owner's address information. So you just click on this icon, and that'll go ahead and import this data. But let's say on record B, we had the owner zip code, which was correct or something like that. Then you can go ahead and click that triangle there, and that'll import that data. So you're basically just saving yourself money and being able to just kind of handle these records and really finalize and make sure everything is good before you're sending out that mailing. All right. So glad to really help you out with that. All right. So let's go ahead and now just real quick talk about updates that were made to the Investment Dominator. We did mention there was quite a lot of updates that were done. So let's go here back to, or we could go to our user guide. We'll go to our user guide by default. You can click onto integrations or just be able to kind of search these specifically as we go through them. But we have really been revamping our Zapier articles and including a lot more software. And some articles which we just created, which we want to go ahead and mention. For example, you'll see here, we now have Dialpad. So if any users are using the app Dialpad, you can find out a way to really integrate Dialpad and the Investment Dominator together, as well as Trello. So if you are, and this is primarily like if you are already using this app and you want to kind of integrate this into your workflow with the Investment Dominator, which you're already using, then this would be a great point for you to go ahead and connect. For those of you that are connected with our Facebook pages, you can go ahead and once a record gets updated within the Investment Dominator, you can go ahead and trigger a campaign within your Facebook pages. So for a quick example, once a record gets updated to the complete and ready to sell, and it's listed onto your selling website, you can actually have an ad or a campaign that'll get sent out on your Facebook pages. And basically, it'll alert your specific audience on your new posting. And it's kind of a further way to just generate more leads. And there's a lot of tracking that's involved with that too, which is great. Let's say if you're using a slide broadcast, for example. So we're really trying to just upgrade, how to go ahead and use the Investment Dominator, and especially just the different ways that you can connect with Investment Dominator. So, we added a lot of those articles, and just kind of in the realm of this as well, I want to go ahead and bring up, let's say, let me see an article here that I can find. We've been updating our YouTube channel quite a lot, just in terms of these videos that we've been working through with. Now, I want to go ahead and find this. Let me go to YouTube right here, and then let's go to, let's see if we can find the channel. Investment. All right, so we have our channel here. Now, definitely recommend, if you have some time just to be able to review the information, but we're really trying to be able to connect with users in all loads of ways, and just be able to really present to you, issues in a format where you can either be presented with some topics or some things that you want to hone in on. Primarily, what we've been uploading a lot of now is these tutorials. So if I come all the way down here, we have more along the lines of some new videos which we're going to be updating in the user guide. So based on primarily asked questions, or our favorite asked questions, I should say. And for example, it's like how to generate a campaign with REI Printmail, how to go ahead and enable the integration. And we have, articles on this already, but really vamping up and being able to have videos that pair with it, we think covers all the bases on, providing you with support. as well as, how to create custom documents. There is this one video here, how to create custom blogs and websites and posts, which was a definitely much requested one. This one here, how to create a custom opt-in page, which you'll see, how to generate a blind offer package for land. And last but not least, how to go ahead and activate our automated ACH payment processing integration. Go ahead and how to set that up and how to enable it. So we're really trying to just branch out, as we had mentioned. I'll close that. And the last tidbit on updates would be our Twitter account. So I definitely recommend just checking this out. So basically, if you are using Twitter and you want to get connected with the Investment Dominator, we are starting to use this more and being able to really post about our updates that we're doing. So, not only do we have just the user guide where you can go ahead and get this information, but we're really hoping to also connect and be able to share things as soon as they come out with this process as well too. So it's all really about getting connected and following through with that. And also, if we come over here to our, let's say, our live training Q&A calls within our user guide, whenever you click on to one of these videos, this will actually go ahead and direct you to just our channel as well. I can go ahead and open that up, pause it. So if you go over here to, let's say, our description, you'll see more information. So for example, more about the Investment Dominator here and Land Profit Generator, as well as how to go ahead and sign up for some of these sessions. I do believe our Twitter is linked there as well. So, that's one thing that's really big regarding updates, and also some things that we want to mention briefly too. If we go ahead and use our user guide and we do system updates, we'll go ahead and see this article here. This is going to be primarily on how to go ahead and see all the latest and greatest updates with the Investment Dominator, as well as what we're working on in terms of priorities. So if we go ahead here and we'll go ahead and scroll down to our current date, you're going to see that there are a lot of updates being done to the Investment Dominator in the background, and this article will be the best way to go ahead and keep up to date with system updates. So for example, you see over here on, let's say, March 18th. So if you go to your land and your edit record screen, we added a new feature so that you'll go ahead and now see the history related to some fields that you're working with. So this was a requested feature in terms of, from one point when you really start out working with that record, you might have an initial value that you set as your market value or even your offer amount. But as soon as you enter in a new value, that would basically get erased. So now with this history, you're actually going to see the past history as to, what that market value was that you had the first time you were working with that record, or, the option amount, whatever that may be. And you'll see March 22nd, we went ahead and fixed an issue with the sorting of the letters in the custom documents. And here's a more recent update on March 25th. So for example, just more along the lines of the update property, which was updated, as well as some extra fields which were added too. Now, we're about almost out of time, but I want to go ahead and show you guys a new feature which is being added to the Investment Dominator, and I believe it has already been added, but we could actually just check right now. So for example, I have a record here under complete and ready to sell, and if I go ahead here to edit, I'm going to go ahead and see the record as usual, but there is a new tab which should be here. I believe. Okay, yeah. So there's a new section here, and you can see I just did a Control F to just define the video, but essentially this is a spot where you can now add videos directly to your your edit record, or just to your property record that you're working with. So for example, if you wanted to even add this video as a, as something as part of your property listing, you can go ahead and have that. So essentially you would just scroll down to this, you would select the video that you want to work with, and it would have to be downloaded onto your system to be able to use, but then you can go ahead and see a preview of it here, and you can just have it open up onto your selling site page. So essentially, if we go ahead here, let me go to my selling site. So this is something that you can have as here, and then part of this process here would be that video that you are working through with. And that's just a great feature to have if you want to just connect with your potential buyers as well too. So that'll go ahead and cover that. And again, just kind of test around with that and play around with it. I do believe you would have to come over to the land section, right? Or no, you would actually go to customize, and you would go to selling site settings. And basically you'll see, if you scroll down to the bottom, that this property listing elements that you'll see here, and you'll go ahead and you can create a new listing element, and then you can add that video here, you can add the name, and then the merge field would just be, I believe it is something video. It might be something video, which should come up. But you would basically add that merge field there to be able to have that. Let me go back to my website settings. I have it here. So if I go to edit, so the merge field is just property video. And basically we're going to be updating a user guide article, which you'll probably see either today or tomorrow, just detailing this more. But this is really just a great way to go ahead and add videos to your custom pages that you've created, or anything related to your selling site as well too. All right, now if there's no quick questions that we can go ahead and answer, let's go ahead and see here. So there's a kind of a quick question here from Kevin, just along the lines of how to go ahead and research deals. So I'll just recommend you real quick to our wizard that we have here. And when you go ahead and click through this for the first time, you're going to see that you need to go ahead and search for a record that you already have within your Investment Dominator that you want to go ahead and search for. And you'll see here, before you go ahead and click onto this field, you can just look for either a property ID, a first name, a last name, a company name, or APN. So essentially address wouldn't work for this field here, but any of these values here would go ahead and take care of that. But all right, so let's go ahead and choose our quote today. And our quote is, let's see, from, and I really don't want to butcher this, but the name is Widad Akrari. I might have definitely said that wrong, so I do apologize, but it is a beautiful quote. It is, if you are positive, you'll see opportunities instead of obstacles. And it's a quick quote, but I really like it because it really depends on your outset and how you're looking at, how you're connecting with the Investment Dominator and what you hope to really gain from it. You want to keep in mind that you might see something in your perspective as an obstacle, but if you can go ahead and really work towards that solution and kind of hone in on that, you might notice that there are some possibilities that could come up. So for example, you're working through with a default process with the Investment Dominator, but you know that creating, a custom document can actually lead you to some great results. For example, adding your logo, adding more signatures, whichever you may need. So just try to look at things in a different perspective, and just always remember, again, really just to have your goals set up as some positive reinforcement so that you can go ahead and, continue on your journey throughout the Investment Dominator and really be motivated to go ahead and start making some money. But without further ado, really appreciate everybody for joining on today and all the questions that were asked. Always, always appreciate that. We'll go ahead and see you next time on our Monday session.